Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for the Bloom Inside Out 4th Annual Bio Summit in partnership with Women Entrepreneurship Day organization. I'm super excited to have all our guests online and here in person convening to celebrate this day. We know that we celebrate Women's Day on the 9th of August here in South Africa. It often gets clouded with so many other agendas and issues that women are facing because we face so many injustices as women. It really is an amazing and a really critical day that the 19th of November was declared as the Women Entrepreneurship Day, because we do not often pay attention to the role of women when it comes to economic development, when it comes to supporting families, raising children, and really just bringing the kind of talent and gifts into the world to move this world forward. Our theme this year is Forge Forward. You're probably wondering why I chose this theme as the founder of Bloom Inside Out, the country ambassador of Women Entrepreneurship Organization. I just reflected on what we have gone through in the past 2 years. As you all will know, 2020 really brought us all into a standstill. It brought a lot of organizations and companies to a halt. We lost lives and family members. We lost. And so 2020 really is a year where we just came into a halt. 2021 was when we were gathering, we were rebooting, we were revitalizing, we were restarting businesses. Some were looking for employment, but in South Africa, as you know, we have an unemployment crisis. And so many are still crawling, many are still trying to figure it out how to forge forward. This is why I decided that 2021, it is a prayer, it is an intentionality, it is a collective decision that I would love to see as many women and South Africans and people around the world making that conscious decision that says, though this virus doesn't look like it will go anywhere as we head into another 4th wave, we will forge forward as a humanity. We will continue to drive our dreams. We will continue to grow our businesses. We will continue to grow economies and nations will flourish. And this is why I decided this is the theme for this year. Once again, a warm welcome to all our guests in the room and those that are connecting with us online. Women Entrepreneurship Day organization was founded in the US, and it is celebrated across 144 countries around the world. And joining me today is my Pan-Africa ambassador, an incredible leader who has been driving, who's been the wind beneath our wings as ambassadors across SADC countries, and now will be supporting all the women across Africa. Before I introduce Lolo to you all, I'd like to run through the house rules. Everyone in the room, please do switch off your phones when you are in the room. And to our speakers and our guest coaches, please mute your mics and turn off your videos when you are not yet in the program. To everyone who is joining us, particularly the audience that is online, do not be shy to engage. Do not be shy to ask questions. There's a question box, or you can even ask them on the chat. And those connecting from YouTube and Facebook also, please don't be shy. This celebration is for you. It is for everyone who wants to forge forward, for everyone who wants to prosper and continue to level up. And so we have a front row to some of the top executives in the world, some of the top businesswomen in South Africa, and they're here so that we can address some of the challenges, but also collectively look at the opportunities that this pandemic has brought into our lives, and how do we forge forward with that. And so without further delay, I hope you are ready, Lolo, because I'm about to bring you on as my ambassador lead for Africa. Just gonna read Lolo's intro. Khumulemo, Lolo Madiketla is a chartered marketer in South Africa, from South Africa. She's connecting today from Botswana. She's the founder of Ungwa Africa, And she'll probably explain to us what UNGWA means. And 2 weeks ago, as we've been celebrating Women Entrepreneurship Day, she actually brought to my attention that it actually means the same as blooming. She's an online social enterprise. So UNGWA is an online social enterprise that utilizes leadership, mentorship, and loveship initiatives to co-create meaningful impact. She's a chartered marketer with experience in vast industries. She's the Pan-Africa Global Ambassador for Women Entrepreneurship Day organization, a non-governmental organization that celebrates, empowers, and educates women and girls in line with the mandate of addressing systemic poverty. She's also a board member, a board director of Botswana Investment and Trade Center, board advisor for University of Botswana, marketing unit and committee member of Botswana Innovation Fund. Her previous board advisory includes Tapong Arts Center, Botswana Media Women Association, and TED Global. She's passionate about Africa, art, creation of shared value, spiritual nourishment, lifelong learning, storytelling for impact, as well as fascinating fusion of soft skills enhancement and sustainable behavioral change. I'm really honored, and thank you so much for joining us today, Homolema. Cannot wait to hear from you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Knox, to the Bio team, as well as the Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization ambassadors who have joined from South Africa, from the rest of the continent, and the world over. Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization was established by Wendy Diamond. And this is a very exciting model where it is represented in over 144 countries. And actually, we're probably now over 150 countries, with the core aim of celebrating, empowering, and educating women and girls, particularly with a focus of alleviating poverty. But I like to spin it and make sure that what we're doing is creating collective prosperity. Knox is the ambassador for South Africa. She leads an amazing team of different ambassadors in different provinces, cities, and as well as we're looking at actually having universities have their own ambassadors. We, like she just mentioned, we recently had our regional activity where she was, we secretly call her the vibe manager, because her sense of presence always lights up a room. And she was hosting where we had the Botswana Minister of Tourism, we had the South African High Commissioner to Botswana, and many other amazing speakers. So I really invite everybody on this call to get to know Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization better. What we strive to do is to create a community, a collective where women from different backgrounds and across demographics, across socioeconomic levels, are able to come together with a common goal of creating a better tomorrow. We have our website, which is www.wedoafrica.org. So that is the Africa wing of our website. And really what I like about today's theme, Forge Forward, is that it is not a suggestion. It is not a hint. It is a beautiful instruction for us to catapult ourselves to the next levels. But to ensure that we are moving to next levels, it's important that we're able to take stock of where we are, how we are, what is working and what is not working. We are seeing that the pandemic is just exacerbating existing systemic challenges and inequities and inequalities. What's important is that as individuals, as organizations, now that we see what we see, and we cannot unsee what is being brought to our attention, what are we doing differently? How do we forge forward as a team, as a leader? And this is where it's important to maintain community. Knox earlier on asked that I speak more around what UNGWA means. UNGWA is a verb of Botswana origin It means be fruitful, grow, multiply. And similar to bloom, it's around progression. It's around refusing to be stagnant and static. It is around having a transformative mindset. It's around saying, I'm going to move from good to great. But what do you need to do that? Like I said, take stock of where you are, how you are doing things. Are you being innovative enough? Who are you leaving behind? Are you choosing courage over comfort? Are you truly pivoting? Or are you just playing PR with regards to shifting? Do you have a big campaign to the world, yet your team feels excluded? So Forge Forward is an invitation to embrace ourselves, embrace what sets us apart, be exponential in our approach to creating sustainable change, and ensure that we are coming together and collaborating. I'm loving that this particular summit is a collaboration between an international organization with our HQs in New York, as well as a local, I would say a firebrand, woman-owned, woman-led, ground-up built organization. And that is what we want to see. Our SDGs encourage us to partner for sustainable impact. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And let us forge forward without compromise and without any fear. So courage over comfort. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, thank you, thank you. Lolo, you just encapsulated exactly the kind of impact that brought us all together, made our paths to cross. I wouldn't have met you, I wouldn't have known you if we didn't have a collective love for advancing women, collective purpose to level up as a womanhood, not just in South Africa, across Africa. And now I have a sister in Botswana who's constantly in my space, constantly collaborating, constantly just being a safe community that I can say, I'm battling here, I'm struggling here, and you've consistently said, you can do this, Knox, you can do this, you know? And recently, as she was being promoted to Pan Africa, she suggested that I fit into her shoes. And you know, I often speak to the ladies that I coach and go, even when you're ready, you know, you're not ready. You gotta say, yes, I'm here. But for the first time, I said to her, it's not that I'm not ready. I actually have a vision and a goal for South Africa when it comes to women empowerment. And I don't think I have accomplished and taken it to the level where the kind of impact I'd like to see from grassroots, as you say, from informal sector businesses, our young women, taking them along to ensure that they also can say we are prospering, that they can also say we are blooming, that they can also say all that we speak about in terms of women empowerment, we see it, we are living it, and we have taken communities and our families forward. And for that reason, I said to her, you got to give me one more year, maybe 2 years. And I declined the SADC ambassador role.
I like what you just said. And that, again, that is courage. Yesterday, I was listening to, there was an amazing discussion with Dr. Tema, and she said, there's a holiness in the word no. It's important. Shonda Rhimes encourages us to be saying yes, you know, but there's a holiness in saying no, because it's wholesome in understanding your reason for not taking that up. It's not because of a lack of anything, but it is to say, I want to do what I'm currently doing so well that my next step is nothing but a great handover to the next generation, next person who will take that up. So I'm totally excited. You have my full support, and I'm looking forward to us achieving all those goals.
Thank you so much, Lolo. I want to welcome more ladies who joined us in the room. I think they're slowly making their way in. It's often so easy to connect and be on time online. In person, with rain outside. I can see everyone just walking in with umbrellas. It really means the world that you're all here. I see you all. Thank you for joining us today. In line with the theme of Wedo Africa, growing markets, growing financing in business, I have just thought about it and asked myself, where do we get this money, And yesterday, when we were celebrating in East London, our esteemed ambassador in East London, Wendy Silinyane, who did an amazing celebration, said to all of us in the room, money is energy, but you can't chase money. You've got to chase your vision. So we all have to have something that we are looking towards that pulls us, that makes us keep going. And she said, when you then go and follow your vision, provision will follow and money will follow. And so it was just a simple answer to how do we grow markets? How do we grow financing in our businesses? Have a solid, big vision. Then the financing will follow. And with all this, the financial services executives in the room, I really do hope that we will be empowered in terms of how do we live our lives confidently financially? How do we live a better legacy financially as women in this world? And I want us to go directly to our next in the program. This event, I want to just maybe just go back. This is our fourth Bloom Inside Out Summit. It started as a small event before COVID, in our offices, connecting with women, empowering each other, sharing our stories. We didn't have a sponsor. It was fully backed up by my business, Bloom Inside Out. And then we had women who own florist companies, women who own deco companies, even gentlemen with sound who said, we're coming on board. I never thought at that time, though it was my desire, that it will get to a point where we have big corporate companies in South Africa backing us up. To the ladies that are in the room, our headline sponsor today is Netstar. And a lot of you know Netstar because you all drove here, right? And the fear of losing a car and wanting your car to be tracked and be found in a shorter space of time, because we know we are in South Africa. We have to change this narrative at some point. Crime, cars go missing like socks in front of us, right? And it really is something that I take and I want to reflect back and say to the Bloom team, to the BioConnect tribe, we are doing it. Netstar has partnered with us. Alan Gray came on board last year and they came back again this year. And I don't want us to take that lightly, because we know the vision. We know in all our families, we've got women who are still saying, how do I make my life prosper? How do I find myself financially sustainable? How do I raise my children? How do I live life to the full? So we cannot take it for granted that we have a huge responsibility of advancing women. It's not government's role. It's not corporate South Africa's role only. It is the entire society's mission that we all take it upon ourselves to empower the next woman next to you, to empower young women that we are raising, to ensure that we do get to the SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is gender equality, and number 1, which is, I think, alleviating poverty. And so it really gives me great honor to introduce to you our headline sponsor, this amazing lady I met earlier this year. I think I was referred to her. And I will also highlight the importance of building your brand, ladies. And you know, I speak about this consistently, that when you're not there, your brand will speak for you. It was in a boardroom, I think in Johannesburg, Gilvy, that my name was raised. And Netstar was looking for a keynote speaker as they were launching their in-company women empowerment network. And so our relationship with Pem Kaba and her entire board at Netstar started. I didn't think it would last longer. I just thought, okay, they're booking me to tell my story, journey of how I've been blooming, how I've been prospering with other women. In a few weeks after that, I got invited to the Standard Bank Top Women Conference to join the NetStar panel with her MD, with other executives from her company. And that's when I realized this company is a truly purpose-led company. The executives that are leading this organization have taken it upon themselves to activate diversity, equity, and inclusivity, but not just internally within NetStar, in Africa, in South Africa, and globally, but they've gone and actually supported empowering organizations like Top Women. And then I thought to Simi, should we ask when we are actually doing our Bio Summit? It took one email, no deliberation, no hesitation, and NetStar was on board as our headline sponsor this year. Planning a hybrid event was also a decision we made that we are not going to be afraid of this COVID. If you've seen the glance in the room, our tables are far apart. Each table has only 5 chairs as opposed to 10. We were very, very clear that we don't want to have a huge in-person event, but we want to still show that we are forging forward. And forging forward means we are living offline and online. We are connecting in person, and we are showing this virus, even though we can't see it. We ain't scared of you. We are forging forward regardless. But when you are planning a hybrid event like this, it's not cheap. You need an entire support of tech team, so you don't have feedback. And I keep asking, can you hear me? Am I on screen? Because it just will not be professional. And I don't want to do anything that's not professional. And so this is what NetStar has made possible. But beyond that, for you all ladies in the room in person, for us to be able to enjoy a lunch, celebrate in person, toast with a glass of champagne, it wouldn't be possible. So we have ladies that are sponsored that keep walking into the room and joining us today because of our sponsors. It really is, I can go on and on. Pam, you've become a sister I know that you truly live your values of empowerment, of inclusivity and diversity. Pam is a seasoned human resource professional whose most recent experience came through automotive industry. She worked in human resources for Ford Motor Company in South Africa and Middle East for 8 years. She was based in Dubai and in Pretoria. She joined NetStar early in 2019 as the head of human capital. Pam believes in inclusive leadership and that diversity and inclusion is not only about gender, but gender empowerment is a good place to start. Welcome, Pam. Please come through, and we look forward to hear from you and glean off you and learn from you how to forge forward despite this pandemic.
Thank you, Knox, for having me, and good morning to you and your team. Good morning to our audience and everyone who has taken their time to attend this wonderful event today, which is really, really at the heart of our society in terms of the women's role in society, both nationally and globally. So we are really, really honored to partner with you, and really your theme this year in terms of forging forward really resonates with our strategy just around gender inclusion in the workplace. So thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pam. And so and I know that I've kind of unpacked this theme. I'd love first to maybe speak and start from that space of why it's so important for you as an executive in corporate South Africa to partner with organizations like ourselves and Wedo SA and Wedo Global to advance women.
Yeah, it's such a broad question, but at the same time, one that really, really resonates with me, both on a personal level, just looking at my own journey, you know, as a female, let alone a Black female in corporate South Africa, and looking at some of our experiences that we go through, some of the challenges that we go through. But most importantly, Knox, is more about paying it forward, because you look at the young professionals also in the corporate space struggling with the similar issues. We are now in 2021, But, some of the issues that we struggle with as women in corporate South Africa, they're always there. So it was more about creating a space and creating a safe space, for our women or our female colleagues to actually, voice their challenges, learn from each other, but at the same time, carrying the rest of the organization along in terms of, because one of our values as an organization is about embracing diversity and inclusion, which is a topic that has been spoken about very widely, very broadly. There's so many initiatives out there that talk to diversity, but it was more about how do we bring this value to life? How do we make it tangible for people in our organization and leading from the front as executives to actually say, it's not just words on paper, it's not just words that we put, on the screens whenever we have either town halls or employee engagement sessions, but it's really demonstrating tangible actions that people can say, yes, this indeed is an organization that lives their values, but most importantly, creating an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued in the long run, so that we continue to break down these barriers that our young professionals, even the rest of the employees, are still struggling with, more especially the female colleagues. So it was really more about bringing our values to life more than anything else.
Fantastic. I know that the ICT industries is previously a male-dominated industry. And I want us to learn from you, from what you have experienced and continue to see in your organization, in terms of what are some of the holdbacks that you have seen within the organization, and how would you advise, yes, the females in your team, in your company, but also all of us here in the room, we are all playing in industries that are predominantly male, or were previously, male dominated. And we face this on a daily basis. It's not something that we can say, this is a redundant question, like we've dealt with it every day. When we charge women to take up space, the spaces we are taking, you find you're the only female in the room. You find, if you're lucky, there's 2 females in the room. So what are some of the holdbacks that you continue to see playing in the corporate SA space that hold women back from rising up the ranks, but also from just being successful and confident in how they show up?
Yeah. Look, Knox, I think we need to, we need to just give some context here. I think today, most of us, we know that not everything in business is straightforward. Even in our society, as much as in the corporate space, we're driven by the common goal in terms of the business strategy, the fact remains is that we are diverse individuals. We've got different perspectives. We come from different backgrounds, and we bring our own biases into the workspace. So at some point, there's certainly going to be some uncomfortable discussions or uncomfortable conversations about our different views about how we see things. And the sooner we embrace those differences, because it's not so much about, who can scream the loudest. It's about recognizing that which is different from you, and taking that and learning from it, which then enables you to actually put yourself in another person's shoes and understand where they are coming from. So I think some of the challenges that we then continue to see, in corporate South Africa is really about, women in general, and women leaders, that struggle to find their voice, and maybe not having the necessary skills, whether it be it confidence, whether be it courage, or not having enough people that they can look up to say, hey, Knox has done this, if Pam has done this, if so-and-so has done this, so can I do it, but let me learn, let me go and ask these people, how do they overcome their daily struggles? Because at the end of the day, Knox, so you wake up in the morning, you have to put on a brave face, you have to put aside some of your personal concerns, because you have a bigger vision in terms of, there are people that are looking at you, and it needs to be very clear that whatever that you say, it's backed up by actions that match that. So in my role, I think I've been, given, as a head of human capital, the number one thing that is very clear in my mind is that whatever that we do in business should be around our people. We should put people first. So being then in a male-dominated space in the ICT industry, you then get, employees in general, but mostly female, tend to gravitate towards you because they're like, hey, you're sitting there, you're always putting on a smile, you're always smiling, you have a brave face. How do you do it? It's only then when you have these intimate discussions with these certain individuals that actually come to you for help to say, hey, it's really not easy, but it's recognizing what is the outcome that you are trying to achieve. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? But most importantly, what impact are you trying to achieve in terms of empowering others? Because it's not like most of us Knox were just born in these spaces and we found ourselves in these seats. So it's been a journey that has taken us through difficult experiences along the journey. But what's critical along those journeys is that we've had people that have either held our hands or people that have actually saw potential in us when we didn't see it in ourselves. So in those people, then they carried us forward. So it's exactly the same thing that we're trying to do then in these male-dominated spaces. That, hey, how do we elevate the profiles of our female colleagues in this space? How do we give them a voice to actually share their passions and not try to be male or maybe behave like males do because they are in this male-dominated space, that you can still make an impact by just bringing your authentic self as a female in this space and actually having enough confidence, either through mentorship, either through coaching, or talking to people that have walked the path and actually say, I am here. You don't need to justify who you are. I am who I am. I'm a female. I look like this. I come from this background, but this is the value that I bring to the table. So please give me a seat at the table so that I can continue doing that.
Wow, that's sure, that's powerful. Recognizing as a leader that our different backgrounds, different experiences, different circumstances bring a collective of those holdbacks and challenges, that it's not a cut and paste, that it's not because I gave you one solution, it works for all of you, because we are all starting from different levels, different places, with our own childhood biases. It's very important. But what I love about what you've just said is nothing beats being yourself. And that calls for a safe space and a safe environment where showing up as your true self is not looked upon, down or said, she doesn't fit, or she's, she's different, so embracing. And that's obviously the power of inclusivity and creating a safe space for people to show up as themselves, but also supporting them with, I tried that. I know this one who tried that. And that's the power of coaching. And so today, this group coaching scenario in a format that I went for is exactly that I'd love to learn from each and every woman who I'm in touch with, who I'm connected to, and constantly be a student of life. Businesses have obviously been shaken. I want to learn from big business strategies and borrow from you and how we can apply in our own small agencies and our own small initiatives, organizations. I've got a radiologist in the house as well, and she's trailblazing here, creating all these spaces to make sure we can be diagnosed correctly, even in the rural places. But we have all just struggled. We didn't just struggle. It wasn't just big business only. Small business also have struggled. We want to learn from big business. How did you move from 2020 to 2021? And what is your strategies, been your strategies, and continue to be the strategy that sees your company sustainable, and most importantly, retaining those jobs and growing the business?
Yeah, no, thank you, Knox. So I think, starting the topic, in our corporate space around gender empowerment. It's a journey that we started, I think, late 2019, early 2020. And, I called a group of women that were interested in this topic in the organization. I said, look, there is a gap here. We've got this veil of embracing diversity. What does it mean for us? What are your views as women? And we started brainstorming some ideas. But then COVID hit, I think, in March, and all of our plans were halted because then we had to focus our energies on supporting the business, just on the COVID impact and lockdown levels and so forth. And then earlier this year, we came back again and said, let's forge forward, let's continue this discussion. We then started that, and we started surveying NOX females across the organization, but not only females, because we also needed to get a male perspective, so that we are careful that this shouldn't be, a male versus female agenda in our organization, and therefore unintentionally create the gap that we're trying to close by actually just focusing on females. So when they gave us their views, the male perspective, they gave us what they thought. They loved the idea about, women generally get things done. They bring a different perspective to the workplace, but then we also need a stronger voice. And then we got together and then we started the NetStar Women's Network earlier this year. And we said, okay, look, we are still young. What are some of the things that we're going to do? We started profiling our women. You've been in our space, Knox. You know some of the activities that we've been involved in. And then it dawned on us that, if we really, really want to cement this thing internally in our organization, but then also we needed to benchmark ourselves with organizations, like-minded professionals that are doing nice and wonderful things in this space, because we're very clear that we don't want to just talk about gender inclusion just because, everyone is doing it. So we wanted to start within, internally ourselves, and understand what does it mean for us as NetStar, as Altron, looking into our own space, so that it has an impact, and in that way it can be then sustainable. Then we obviously partnered with organizations like yourselves, like Standard Bank Top Women, but we're very clear about what are some of the key activities that we wanted to achieve. So most organizations are doing similar activities, but I think it's very important that when you drive these activities, make sure that the initiatives are authentic, everyone's voice is heard, that it's never like a one-woman show type of a thing. Sometimes it's very important that as a female executive, it could be, an intimidating space for other people who look up to you, that sometimes you take a step back and give others the stage to actually then tell their stories, to actually profile themselves, to actually speak about their passions. In that way, people, employees in the organization generally then get to know each other, and then that's when the excitement begins. Yeah. So I hope that frames, what it is that we are trying to achieve. It is a journey, but then it's very important that we partner with others so that we have a bigger impact, not only in ourselves, but as society at large.
Yeah, awesome. So in closing, Pam, I would love to glean off your life lessons that came around this pandemic. And it's often said we need to continue to fill up our cups so we do not pour from an empty, soul or empty cup in serving others. As an executive in corporate South Africa, and every day I can imagine in HR, that's the first point of, I've lost someone, I've lost my mother, this is what's happening. And it cannot not affect you, being human, you carry others' emotions and others' pain. Yeah. What has been some of your life lessons from around this pandemic of continuing, of ensuring you have that, sane mind and healthy in terms of, we were talking about the health mindsets and the importance of showing up as holistic. Would like to just hear from you. How do you manage it?
Yeah.
Today when people are grieving, people are maybe not performing at their peak level, as you know, because they're suffering, they're caring so much. As a leader, what are some of the things you can share with us that keeps you going and keeps you inspired and motivated to be that empathetic leader?
Yes, yes, very Knox. That is very, very critical, because we're all human beings, and we can't, now act as if we walk on water. We have our moments of weakness here and there, but I think it's very important. I think one of the articles that I just did in our workplace recently, where I spoke about, what are some of the, the HR skills or the human-centered skills that, I am in the HR space, so I'm just going to focus on that, because I think that's where your question came from as well.
Yeah.
That, certain skills that we need to enhance and bring to the fore in order to support the business going forward. It's really around empathy. We need leaders that can put themselves in people's shoes, and, I think I said to one of my colleagues that gone are the days where HR teams will drive, employee engagement by just really being the policy police, like by just making sure that people adhere to policies. So it's more about understanding that COVID has changed so much, has actually impacted people's lives and their work-life balance, that the stories are unique. So you need to have then an empathetic ear, as an HR professional in this space, to actually understand that person's situation, so that you can relate better and give them a solution that best fits their circumstance. And then the second one is really around flexibility, right? So the times where we are seen as this rigid HR departments that, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, are also over. We need to then also, look and review our people processes, be it employee benefits, be it, employee wellness initiatives, be it diversity and inclusion, be it all sorts of emotional topics that are coming with the impact of COVID. We really need to be flexible. And the third one is also around communication. Making sure that whatever that you communicate as the leadership team, filters through that to the rest of the organization, so that people get the message. But most importantly, because you are in that space, it's very important that you as yourself, who are leading these discussions or these employee engagement discussions, you need to also take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. So what I do on a daily basis, I obviously exercise, eating well, we all know these things, protecting your mental health, meditating, prayer, whatever that works for you, but surround yourself also with a network of people that are like-minded, that think and look like you, that actually support some of the things that resonate with you, that you think about. Similar what we are doing in this space, because you can never do it alone. In business or in any other relationship, you can never do things alone. So it's very important that you connect with people that will also keep you grounded, because you are a human being. So at some stage you might make mistakes here and there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Pam, I take a lot of the key themes and keywords. I see some of the chat area, the chat box is buzzing. I saw communication and transparency from Nolene. I don't have a full sight of the chat, but I see it's buzzing with about 18 messages that are just going up there. I take that, self-care and self-love, and the ladies that are in the room, warm welcome to those who've just walked in. I keep seeing you from the corner of my eye. I don't want to ignore you. I cannot wait to hug all of you. I see some are wearing masks. We love that. But we've given you enough room and space so you don't feel threatened. There's only 5 of you every table. So warm welcome, ladies, and you're looking all beautiful. I take from Pam the self-care, self-love. And as center pieces on your tables, I've put the scented candles, as beautiful flowers, but just also to remind ourselves to just smell the roses, Take a moment, take a breather. This morning is about that. And we're here. It's been almost a year and a half. We've never connected properly in person. And this means a lot. to me and to all of us. And this is how we sustain ourselves, like Pam said. Pam, I cannot thank you enough for making time today to be here, but also for sharing some of the human experiences and really tangible examples of how you are as a leader are leading within this pandemic. You know, communication so key, taking care of yourself, mental health always important, and that shift of not policing people and standing in HR with the stick that says you are late today. You know, I've had to really be flexible. You mentioned flexibility. Flexi-time was a thing when we worked for Unilever with Bonnie. It was something that was probably reserved for a few, you know, top executives, and we wanted it as the junior, you know, managers and employees. That can I start at 9, maybe finish at 5? Can I work half a day in and half a day out? Now, COVID, if there's one thing I'm grateful for, is that flexi-time is accessible to all of us. And internally in Blue Marketing, Wednesday is the work from home day for everyone. If you go in, it's out of your own accord and your own decision, but don't expect us in. We are working in our pajamas, but that's also to balance it. So the balance, you know, balancing that we have to forge forward. We are slowly going back to the office. But because we've gotten used for almost a year to just waking up and put on your pajama and work, can that not be taken from us? So I love that flexibility, and I don't know what it looks like for you, and I'm sure every organization, I'm going to hear from our Bonnie here, who manages a huge media company, how it works for her. I mean, in the radio station, I've been hearing radio jocks saying, I'm broadcasting from home. I'm like, huh, that happens. So I cannot wait to hear about that. Like, how have you managed that and not seeing everyone in the studio? So Pam, thank you so much. We take a lot from what you've just shared. And I'm sure it's being echoed on Twitters and Instagram and on the chat box. And ladies, do not be shy to share. Sharing is caring. Everything we are taking here from today is something we can share with those around us in our businesses. So Bayanda is glued on YouTube where we are broadcasting, and I'm sure there's some engagements there. Ratiba is glued on Facebook, there's engagement there, and right here on Zoom. And now the room is feeling a bit warm because more ladies have joined us here for the live event. Pam, thank you so much. And I will just put you on the spot and say, we look forward to journey with you for many years to come as Bloom Inside Out.
Absolutely. Absolutely, dogs. We have started the journey, so you're stuck with us.
Oh, yay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Most appreciate you and your team. And so we will move on in our program. I want to see if there's any questions for Pam before she logs off from chat, from WhatsApp. If you are in the room, ladies, and you are here, I shouldn't say if you have a question in the room, we have a roaming mic. Have that on standby. You can literally just lift a hand and we'll take your question, and our guest speaker will hear you. So any questions in the room, just signal. Cool. I'm not seeing your hands yet. I'm hoping that we will be getting everyone ready for our group coaching because it's for you. So any question, no question is small, no question is silly. I'm sure each and every one of you have got something that you've been grappling with, something that is a challenge, something that you are hoping to hear from others. How have they done it? And so online and offline, I'm looking forward to hear from all of you. Pam, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And where we are, if I'm not, sound of real claps, guys. It's like, yo, this life is like, it's far, far away from us. It hasn't happened. It's so long. I know. I'm one who is grateful for it all. So this moment now takes us to the core of today's structure. So we have group coaching. And in the group coaching space, you know, I often have a privilege of coaching each one of you individually, engaging with you every day, whether it's on WhatsApp, and we have lots of WhatsApp groups. Where do South Africa, where do SADC? Bloom Inside Out Durban, Bloom Inside Out Joburg, combined with Cape Town, because Cape Town is small. Don't know what the ladies in Cape Town do. They don't want to connect. But we've got all these WhatsApp groups. And, you know, today I thought I'm going to take a back seat. And I'd love to have a mix of executives from the media because, hey, Fourth Industrial Revolution has shifted so much. And so in the room with me, our first guest coach is Bonnie Ntunu, my dear friend, who we have worked together in Unilever. She is the lady that heads up the East Coast radio station. East Coast Radio. And so all the Geminites in the room totally know what I'm talking about. Bonnie is the East Coast Radio MD for the past 6 years. And I know it's not in bio here, but Bonnie is a seasoned marketeer. She has been like holding marketing roles in Unilever. That's when we met and fell in love with each other. And I held close to her, even when she decided to go and do marketing for tourism KZN. And her role was for the UK market, right? So she was never in the country. When she was, I'll be like, Coffee Connect, you know, because she was marketing South Africa and particularly KZN in London and UK. So Bonnie is from Pietermaritzburg, born and bred from Maritzburg. And I know that's something she holds very dear. You know, when girls from small towns like myself, I'm from Newcastle. I see someone from Maritzburg, they're saying, hey, hey. And so she holds that dear. And I see you constantly going back to impact Pietermaritzburg community. She's passionate about KZN and about leadership. You gotta love KZN. Even on Twitter, I think the Twitter streets always just go on about us KZN people. We've got our own thing. We just not like the rest of South Africa, but I won't delve into it. Bonnie is a go-getter, driven. No job is too big or too small for this boss lady. Bonnie continuously developing her reputation and is gaining recognition as a board member with integrity. Another key word I'd love us to hold to today. She holds a lot of board positions in some of the reputable companies in South Africa. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Knox. Good morning, ladies. It's so nice to see everybody in real time and online. So good morning.
Fantastic. The next guest coach that I'd like to introduce today is a dear friend of mine too. And I said this last year, and you guys thought I'd just say this for sweet nothing. Relationships anchors our lives. Relationships are important. And the reason we're here also today is to connect and build relationships with each other. And I've got sisters in the room. I've got sisters here online. Sydney also, we've had a same journey of working at Unilever together and then admiring him as he just go on that trajectory. And he is in one of the top roles as a chief marketing officer, brand lead for Sanlam. Very excited that he could join us today. Sydney Ntantambele is a chartered marketer from South Africa with a proven track record in building brands and markets. Our theme is in growing markets and growing financing in business. His experience stretches financial services, banking, insurance, and investment, fast-moving consumer goods and telecoms. He's worked in marketing, in communications, sales and corporate affairs, and led major brands for organizations that include the likes of Unilever, local South Africa, and global roles in London, SA Breweries, SAB Miller, Nedbank, Liberty, Celsea. Sydney is currently the chief executive brand at Sanlam Group, not just Sanlam Group, and is a member of EXCO. She's a chairman and a board member of the Marketing Association of South Africa. So we are led here, as a marketeer, we are led by the best in the country and the world. He was a Lurie jury in 2021 for the awards, the advertising awards, and jury president of Shared Value, Service Design and Effective Creativity. Sydney is also a co-founder and a chairman of Mentor a Boy Child. This excites me, especially because we just started 16 days of activism and we stand still saying no to gender-based violence. And so I love seeing nonprofit organizations with impact like this that are raising men that we can say, you know, proud men of valor, focusing on helping young boys become better men for society. He has an MBA from Gibbs. Even his experience alone, when I just went through all the roles he's held, that's just like an MBA right there. So let's say double MBA. Advanced Management Program from MIT Boston, Massachusetts. Executive Strategic and Marketing from Stanford University in California. So he's a student for life. When do you stop studying, my friend? Postgrad in Strategic Marketing Management from UNISA and BSOC from UCT. Welcome, Sydney. Let's see him on screen. There's this gorgeous friend of mine, Sydney Mbele. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you, and great to see Bonnie right next to you, a long lost friend too. So I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Sydney, for making time and being our ally today. You know, allies in action who really, really show up and not just speak about it, but not show up to support women. It means the world for me that you today are our he for she representative in the room. So thank you so much. And then next, in terms of our guest coaches joining me for group coaching today, is a lady that hails from KZN, has found home in in Johannesburg. Her name is Thandeka Mngomezulu. She's an accountant by profession with vast experience in a number of sectors, including health, facilities management, energy, transport, sports, and entertainment. Her passion for regulatory compliance, financial management, business development, and empowerment led her to establish Tasola Consulting in 2009, which mainly focuses on SME development, finance management, and business advisory services. Thandeka then founded Total Serve Facilities Management in Maintenance in 2013. The main focus is servicing the property sector value chain and provides various services from maintenance, services to the management of infrastructure assets. So all your properties are in good hands with this boss lady. Currently employs 520 employees, and she looks like she's still 20. Look at you, Thandeka. Okay? And a community, and has a national footprint in terms of her business operations. Thandeka's main goal is empowerment of women, youth, and greater SA community through education and sustainability. Her long-term vision is to develop and collaborate with entrepreneurs in untransformed sectors within South Africa. And today, she joins us as the Standard Bank Top Woman Entrepreneur of South Africa 2021. Welcome, sweetheart.
Thank you. Ooh, that was a handful, but thank you so much, Knox. Good morning to everyone, fellow speakers and the panelists and all the ladies joining us today, virtually and personally. Personally, I wanted to be there so much, but thanks to this fourth wave and this variant, I was really looking forward to engaging with everyone personally because we haven't done that in the past 2 years. But I look forward to engaging, to learning, to thriving with everyone, and to learning from everyone. So I'm very excited to be here.
Fantastic. I'd like Sydney to open his video, share the screen with me, and Thandeka, thank you so much. And Bonnie here live. Can the video show both myself and Bonnie? So we are all right there. To the ladies online, ladies in the room, this is about you. I've gone and brought the best in marketing, financial services, media, digital space, entrepreneur. And we have a front row to this amazing panel for guest coaching. So do not be shy to bring those questions. I'd like that mic to be ready because I know there's questions in the room. But to kickstart and warm the space so that you're all feeling, confident to connect with our guests here, we've set some conversation starters. But before I go there, in the same order that I introduced you, please could you just present a few minutes of lending yourself into the panel around the theme Forging Forward, around the Africa theme of growing markets and growing financing in business. So I'm handing over to you, Bonnie, to land in the room. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Knox, and good morning once again. I think for me, the theme really speaks to the now and the future, you know, that we all need to forge forward. I think it was it Pam who said it's very instructive. It's like, it is deliberate. It says exactly what we need to do. But one thing I've learned really about even forging forward and putting strategies together for businesses, you know, one thing that this pandemic has taught us is to be agile. Yeah. You know, because there's nothing that is constant now. Who would have thought that on the, what's the date today? What's the date? The 4th. That we will be talking about the 4th wave of COVID again in South Africa. We all may have had plans that by this time, this year, this is what we're going to do. But the current situation we find ourselves in requires each and every one of us to change. So I always tell my team, you know, that if you really aren't into the agility space and forging forward, this is not, you can't be here, because it just requires that much. Even strategies. I mean, strategies back in the days when we were at Unilever Knox, you'll have a strategy cast in stone and it's set, it's going to be executed throughout the year. Nowadays, strategies must be in a pencil, because things will change and you just got to navigate and sway towards the right direction. So I really appreciate the theme. And I still believe in this country as a South African myself. I am proudly South African. I think we have done well in terms of managing the pandemic, and we are forging forward. So it just requires each and every one of us to be content with the situation or the period we find ourselves in. We did not ask for it, but we find ourselves here. We just need to learn to navigate. And it takes a deliberate effort really to do it and do it well. So, and for us as a media, like you made an example, Knox, at the beginning, that, you know, ordinarily in a radio station, you have to be in a studio where it has soundproof and. But when COVID happened, we didn't realize we can actually broadcast in Darren's home. Our technical team had to go set it up, make sure that it can be done. And guess what? It was done. You know, things that ordinarily you would have thought are impossible. COVID has actually proved that nothing is impossible if you put your mind to it. And we have been able to navigate and find ourselves here. I think what is central for me as the head of East Coast Radio has been KZN and the well-being of KZN. And how do we get KZN to forge forward? Most of you will know that when the riots happened on the 12th of July this year, we all thought, you know, everything is going to fall apart. But the communities, it's because we did so much to make sure that we bring hope to the communities of where we operate as a business. So yeah, it really is about forging forward and being intentional about it, and not think it's going to happen by chance. Be deliberate, be intentional, and make sure that it happens. Thanks, Knox.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. And the challenges of such online spaces as well is that we get hacked. So I'm hoping that my team is attending to the hackers that have just showed up in the space. Thank you so much. And I'm going to move on and ignore people who just go out to be spoilers in the space that is meant to help us forge forward. So Bonnie, I take a lot from you, from what you've just shared now. Agility, another word I'm going to bank for today. Flexibility. We've always known strategy to be set and cast in stone, and we all must. And to be here when we now write strategy in pencil, I love that as well. I'm going to bank that. So be able to be flexible and to be able to be agile as a business as well is a key thing for this time. I'm going to move on straight to you, Sydney, to land in the room also around the theme for South Africa, Wedo, as well as the Africa one.
Yeah, good morning to everyone, and on what is promising to be a humdinger of a day, really fortifying engagement that's in the offing, if I look at your agenda in terms of what you're going to cover today. But firstly, let me thank you, Knox, for inviting me to be part of this panel. I'm incredibly proud to be sharing the stage with amazing game changers. We have achieved so much and continue to shift the boundaries, and it's it's also great, as I said, to reconnect with some of the people I've worked with before. So lovely to see Bonnie. And I'm so incredibly proud of her own journey and what she's achieved over the years. If we get into the theme Forge Forward, I mean, I thought, maybe I will just lend a few things and make it authentic and center it to things that have shaped my own life, and dare I say, they apply at personal level, they apply at business level, and the different realms of life. And I believe these things are gender agnostic. And I thought to make it easy to lend these things and for purposes of creating a memory structure, so that, if people say, what did this guy come and say to us, at this virtual event or hybrid event, there's 5 things really in my mind, that I think, matter to win in this game of life. I could have probably conceptualized 100 because, life is perpetual and it's boundaryless, and there's just so much for us to contend with on a day-to-day basis. But I chose 5 of what I think are really powerful things for us to keep, at the back of our minds as we navigate this very turbulent world. And its turbulence comes with its own silver lining. And I want to start by, taking an analogy of an actual game. Remember, I said 5 things that matter to win in this game of life. I want to take an analogy of an actual game, a sports game, whether you follow basketball or soccer, or you follow hockey, or rugby or netball, and or even F1. This weekend, Lewis Hamilton is hopefully going to clinch a win in Saudi Arabia, if you're a fan of, but just take any kind of, a sports game, and you think about how these teams win in these games. You have a defense strategy on the one hand, right? And it's important to have that, right? Because you want to protect, your center, your core. You want to make sure that you don't take a step back. You want to move forward. On the other hand, you have to attack, and you've got to do these things all at the same time. And in between those 2 things, defense and attack, you have to develop a plan to keep the shape and structure of your team. So I'm a big soccer fan, and I know that when Kaizer Chiefs play, I'm sure most of you know, there's a team called Kaizer Chiefs, and there's another team called Orlando Pirates. They don't play the same style of football. They have different philosophies. So between the attack and the defense, you've got to be able to stay true to who you are, to your strategy, right? And, so that you don't allow circumstances to shape, your future. So staying true to who you are ensures you don't just wither away. You don't, because all of us are very special in our own way. That's why we are just so unique, so different. And if you do that well, it will regulate the interface between the defense and the attack, right? Yep. So let's extrapolate this to the analogy, that I've just given in the sports environment, to life, to work, to running a business. Think about the same continuum, I would say. On the one, what I call defense, you've got to have the resilience, because I talked about a world that is very turbulent. It's not everyone in the world is well-meaning. Not everything that happens in the world, is expected. So you have the resilience that we've got to build, within ourselves. And then on the other hand, for lack of a better word, I want to talk about ambition, that we're not going to be submerged into this negative world of the pandemic, of someone doesn't like me, they don't want to give me finance for my business, whatever the case may be. You want to talk about what does it mean to really be a ship shaper, and you want to keep your ambitions. You want to keep your North Star, because this is what moves you forward. This is what helps you to forge forward. This is the gears that you need to drive, to propel you, to achieve your dreams and aspirations. And between those two, which is the resilience and the ambition, remember I said defense and attack, in between those two things, I've picked three things that I believe in today's world are table stakes. You know, if you really can't internalize these things, particularly, you know, we're talking about, you know, and Knox said to me, talk about, you know, what does it take for women in this country or in this world to be able to forge forward? And the three things I thought are important, where I've found a lot of growth personally myself, people that I've led, colleagues, etc., is self-awareness, and I'm quite happy to unpack that as we get into the conversation, is the emotional quotient. How do you regulate your emotions, you know, as you navigate this very uncertain world? And then lastly, how do you pick the team around you to support you, right? Whether, you know, when you think about the sports world that I just used as an example, you know, you may have a head coach, but actually there's a guy who is a goalkeeper coach. There's a guy who is a defense coach. You know, there's a masseur there. There's an analyst who analyzes the next, opponent that you're going to play next week, and they've already analyzed the game, so they can shape your story today in anticipation of what's going to happen in the future. So those are the three things that sit in between, and if you combine all of those five things, I believe you have a very good chance to forge forward.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sydney. It's like we are almost like finished, you know. I captured that very well, and thanks for just mapping that in a scenario where I can imagine it, that, you know, the defense, those two sides of ambition and resilience, and being able to just keep your vision and pulling you, and then right in the middle, in playing within that space, be aware of yourself, of the environment and people that you're playing with, and really be in touch with self and that emotional IQ. Most importantly, the team around you. It's who you keep around you. It's who you keep around you. I'm going to echo that probably later when I do my thank yous with Simi, but I totally understand the importance of a team. Yesterday, we launched Connected Women. It's an initiative as part of IAB South Africa. So it's a digital organization. It's a global organization, representation in South Africa. So everyone who plays in the digital ecosystem, you are a client, you have a brand, you're media, creatives, everybody, and we are all playing in the digital space. IAB is an organization you want to follow on socials and be part of all the learning of the digital space. In that launch, it was really highlighted by my also dear friend Kensani Nobanda, the importance of a team. And the question that came up is, how do you find the right team, one? How do you sustain and build that team? And how do you retain that team? And the one thing that I walked away from there with, also coming from a lesson from you and many other executives, she said, whether you're moving from Nedbank to Vodacom or the other way around, don't be shy to find your people. The people who've resonated with you, who gets you, the people who rallies around you, the people who love a good challenge, the people who aren't scared or shy when you're saying, this is the vision and this is what we have to do. And that's how you constantly win. And that's how you constantly forge forward. I don't know, Thandeka. 520 team members. I cannot wait to hear from you how you manage this monster of a company. Welcome, ladies. I'd love to give you an opportunity to land as well in the room around this theme of forging forward and growing markets and growing financing in business as a top entrepreneur of the year this year. Can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Knox. Thank you, Sydney and Bonnie. I've learned so much from you. And everything that you have said is so critical, especially in business, because businesses have been in the forefront of loss, economies dying. And what I've learned, as you said, Sydney, resilience is a major thing in business. Because tough economies require tough companies and tough people, because companies are made by people. So there's a personal aspect to that as well. So as a leader, it was chaotic. And because for us, we are in the service industry, which is classified as an essential service. But with us thriving in business, there's a personal aspect that we needed to go back onto and become compassionate enough as leaders to, how do we then change when it's level 5, when it's shut down and there's no transportation for employees, there is no communication, how do people work from home? So as a leader, firstly, we needed to just take care of our people, make sure that technology and innovation and mindset has changed. Because what has happened in the industry is there's a lot of change of strategy. New policies are in place. So it's almost every day we're introducing something new. So COVID policy wasn't there. We had to, implement COVID policies and have a COVID officer in the company, because we have so many employees and there's, communication every day. How do we make that happen while people are working from home? How do we as employers make sure that people, while they're working from home, they're comfortable, their mental state is actually in the right space? Yeah. So as a leader, you have to be okay mentally and also pour what you have. And it's been quite difficult because, as a leader, you are a person as well. And having to pour from that, it's been hard. But resilience and adapting and agility has been the critical thing, both on my personal level and also the business, and also letting the employees know that, things have changed and you have to adapt and change now, because the strategy in which we adopted is we want to do more with less. We want to, be lean in our systems. With that as well, we had to diversify our business to actually, speak to what is critical. So the change, the multi-skilling, of people has been very critical, where as you can be a bookkeeper, but you need to be able to understand other sources of business and where you are and what the bigger vision of this business is about. So, and where we are with the change is that computers have taken over many jobs. Jobs of an accountant's been taken by technology. Job of a lawyer has been slowly taken by. So how do you make yourself irreplaceable? That is more to the employees and the team members. As business people, diversification has been so important. And I think, as much as COVID has hit us so badly, it's become an opportunity for people to redefine themselves into what business, do I do, and how does my business expand? How does my business keep working? Because there are businesses that have been shut because they're just not required anymore. So for me, I would urge every business person to go back to do a business remodeling on what would work for me in a tough economy, in a pandemic, if I have people or no people, so that, you're able to be sustainable and you're able to thrive beyond everything. So agility, resilience, technology, innovation, strategy, remodeling is a critical and still stands as a critical thing. How do I, if you are in I'm in a built environment space and it's quite broad. So my relearning and my redefining myself as a business owner is what other pockets in the value chain can I actually grab quickly to be able to, outsource, not outsource some of the services that are outsourced. So what can you do in the whole, so it's you understanding the whole value chain of what you do, gives you a clearer, indication as to, I can actually produce my own cleaning chemicals. I can actually produce my own, waste management strategies or waste management equipment. And instead of me, so it's going lean and doing more. So our strategy in the company is I'm going lean, I'm doing more with less people or less resources. So if someone was doing a job of one person, they will now do a job of 3 people. And for them, it's growth and for them to be also multi-skilled in the thing. So my takeaway is resilience, compassion, growth within your industry, and agility, because we keep changing every day, and this we have been forced to actually change. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Thandeka. Welcome to some of the ladies who've also just walked in. I keep seeing you on my, side here, and I know the rain has slowed some of you getting here, but we are right in it. And those who've just walked in, please grab your phones, your journals, draft your questions, because we have top executives in the room that are here to really just help us unpack some opportunities, as we've heard, but also find solutions for challenges that we are all facing. And we just hope that we will all be authentic. We will all feel safe in the space to be able to talk about what are some of the things that are holding you from growing, some of the things that have, shaken you up, and how you could, how to navigate those things, and hope that we can then collectively forge forward because we have addressed those in the room. So I think somehow we kind of, with your landing input into the session and how to forge forward with this virus in our midst, you've really just given us so much that we can take away, and now I want to probably go into, you've actually touched on some of the strategies, but for you, Bonnie, I know that you mentioned that you were writing strategy in pencil and rubbing it. What has been some of the growth strategies that both personally and in business that have seen you continue to thrive this year, and we'll probably see you forging forward as well next year?
So personally, honestly, it has been about just being able to adapt and being able to change and being happy to do that, you know, because sometimes you can say these things, but actually and not do it.
Yeah.
So it's about being deliberate and really make sure that you do what you say you're gonna do. That's one. And then from a business point of view, I like the point Thandeka makes about understanding the value chain and where you can impact better as a business. So that's the value chain understanding and saying, what other revenue streams can you bring for the business for you to still continue to make money? That's one. And then secondly, having the right people in the bus. Sydney spoke about people.
Yeah.
I think I have learned COVID, if there's one thing COVID has taught me, is the importance of people.
Yeah.
When I say people, I mean people in your team and people whom you regard as partners, like yourself, Knox, our clients, our suppliers, and you know, like to reach out, because everybody, for the first time, I mean, if one thing we have learned from COVID is that this thing is impacting absolutely everybody globally. So if you reach out, you find that someone is going through the very same thing that you are going through. Maybe they are a step ahead of you or a step behind you, then you can collaborate and get to do stuff. Like, for instance, you know, even digital, I mean, digital has grown so much. I mean, if you think about how many times did you buy online 2-3 years ago versus how many times you buy online today?
Yeah.
Like that has changed dramatically. So we started at East Coast Radio doing podcasting because we are KZN's #1 for that very reason, that we are smart, we do things first and.
Right.
So you would find that we repurpose our content into the podcasting space, but 2-3 years ago, nobody cared about that.
Yeah.
But if you look at our podcasting stats today, and we've started an e-commerce, the stuff that people buy online in our platforms, which was launched 4 or 5 years ago when I started, but the growth in those things has tripled just because as a result of COVID. I look at COVID as it's really been a challenging time for many industries and for everybody in business, whether in business, even personally for all of us, but also it has brought about so many opportunities, like really so many opportunities. The fact that we can connect, I don't know, Thandeka, where you are, but Sydney's in Joburg, and look, we are connected. It just feels like we are in the same space.
Yeah.
I remember the one day I was running late for my meeting. I just stopped at the garage. I connected. I had my filter at the back and nobody could tell where I was. So much can be done and we can multitask and be able to do so many things as a result of COVID. So innovation, honestly, has been the name of the game. I think innovation and agility and having the right people in the bus, because there's nothing like having a vision and really seeing where the team needs to be going from the business purpose point of view. But if you have the wrong people in the bus who will always criticize you, who will always pull you down, who will always see fault in everything that you are trying to do, guess what? Nothing will ever take off. But if you have the right people, and the right people doesn't mean it's the yes ma'am people. Other people who will question you constructively with the whole purpose of making sure that we get to where we need to get to. So I think the right people, the innovation, and really even going back to stuff that maybe you tried 3-4 years ago and they didn't work. And guess what? Maybe you were ahead of the time and now it's the right time. Like I'm talking about the e-commerce, I'm talking about the podcasting. Those were the things we tried 5 years ago, they didn't work. And guess what? They're working like hotcakes today. So yeah, it's really about being present in the moment. I like that as well. Like look at where we are now as a country and what can be done now to make sure that you super serve your communities and the people you do business with. Importantly, your people. I think,
I like this. I love, in fact, everything that you shared, Bonnie. But what I'm taking is your own personal growth strategy, not just in business only. Go back to some of the goals, some of the dreams, some of the things and ideas that you tried 3 or 4 years before. You might just find out that it was premature. And COVID, what it has done is it's fast-tracked the pace at which we were adopting the digital way of doing business and way of doing life. And just, take your journal and go back and just remember those things and just say, okay, maybe this time, let's try it again, and now it seems to be the biggest revenue or one of the big revenue streams in your lives, in business and in your life. For the space where you talk about setting up at home, I mean, that is like a shift. I mean, you started by saying you've got to want to change, and change is not easy. You've got to want to change and not talk about it and not do it. Yeah. How was it, like you yourself, from being used to seeing everybody in East Coast Radio on the floor, and suddenly it's an empty shell? But also, how was it for your team who had to just work solo at home? How did you navigate the change in the way that you operate?
Knox, to be honest with you, it hasn't been easy. It really hasn't, because like I was saying earlier, that in radio broadcasting, you need to be in a soundproofed environment. But we've actually learned that if you close the door, the sound is not as solid as you would have in the studio. But if you close the doors, you close the windows, you can still broadcast. You give a person a mic, you set them up online, it can be done. For us, I mean, if you know the sound, you will hear that the sound is not 100%. It's like when they are on an outside broadcasting, let's say they're broadcasting at Gateway, or you can hear the echo, but it can be done. So previously, pre-COVID, we thought, no way, if you're sick, we'll hire someone to come. If you can't, we'll hire someone. But COVID has really taught us that it can be done. The quality may be not 100%, but it can be done. One of the things that I've also learned, Knox, I remember the day we had to shut down. Remember the first 21 days?
Yeah, 21.
the first 21 days. Like as leaders, sometimes we think we have all the answers. Yeah. And which sometimes is the flow. It's like, really, it can't be. Like admit, if you don't know, just admit to your executive team, guys, says, come, let's huddle. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. If it's like this, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And one thing I've learned during COVID as well is to be the last one to speak. Hear everybody's view. Receive what they are saying. I've coined an acronym that says RASA. Receive what is being said by everybody. Accept, it's RASA. So accept what is being said by everybody. And then try and summarize, because as a leader, you have to make the ultimate decision. So receive what's being said, listen with an intention to listen, not with an intention to answer. So receive what's being said, accept and analyze what's being said, and then summarize it, and then you can ask questions at the end. Because sometimes we just think we have all the answers, but sometimes it's not the case, hey? The best answer will come from the least expected person in the room. So we have to be mindful, because if you're not, you just think you have all the answers, and sometimes it's not the case now.
Sure. I feel empowered by you saying it hasn't been easy, and I heard it when Tandega also mentioned it, because sometimes we think the corporate companies, the bigger businesses have it got all figured out. It empowers me to know that even in those moments of vulnerability, anxiety, unsure of what the next step is supposed to be in business, that I'm not alone, and big businesses as well, and big executives are going through the same. Sydney, life lessons, life strategies, business strategies, I'm combining those. What you gave us in that summary was just like, I feel like you gave it all, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to hear from you what you've learned as a person, what the business has learned, and how you've navigated.
Yeah, I mean, I think the points that Uboni and Tandega are making are really, really powerful. I mean, I think we got to recognize that there's often a silver lining to any negative situation or setback, you know. Yeah. And I mean, I was thinking about it, and actually, when the rest of the world decided to cancel flights to and from South Africa last week, after the Omicron variant was discovered. And I was thinking, actually, there's a silver lining. You know, there's lots of 5-star, 6-star lodges that we can't afford to go to as South Africans. You know, the pricing is just completely out of kilter. You earn in South African rands, and you know, with them not coming and canceling, guess what? Now we can go to Singitas of this. Right? You know, actually, I was celebrating. Right? So I mean, it's not necessarily neglecting the broader impact that's happening around us. But the truth of the matter is that there's always a silver lining. And Bonnie talked about it, you know, in terms of what it meant for them to pivot and to be able to broadcast in a different format than they ever thought they could do. I guess the question is, you know, what is your silver lining wherever you find yourself? At a personal level, at a business level, you know, or in a work environment. What is your silver lining, and how can you take advantage of where we find ourselves? You know, we buy shares when they are trading low. I mean, that's something that we do consciously, right? And because we are hoping to benefit from the upside, you know, later on. Again, that's a silver lining. You know, so the answer is, be very clear of what you seek to achieve and what you're doing. Stay the course, and then find ways to, you know, to identify those things that, you know, will catapult you to kind of your next level of growth. I mean, Bonnie talked about adopting new revenue streams, this idea of adopting new technology processes. You know, what about our own people, asking employees to learn new skills, to support changes that are happening in the business models, you know? So there's always an opportunity to build, you know, because the social and economic challenges that are posed by the pandemic have emphasized the true value of identifying a business strengths and weaknesses, as well as recognizing and you know, recognizing and mitigating what you may see as material risks to your business. So, you know, a big part of it is the defense, and I talked about it. Go fix the things that are broke, right? But go back and re-examine your value chain. It's been said here, and be razor sharp on where the leakage is, you know, that was damaged by the pandemic, and mend that, you know, and then find ways to anticipate future disruptions so that you don't find yourself here again, right? So that we don't find ourselves here again. And a big part of what we've done in our business, particularly with the new, you know, a brand ethos that you referred to earlier, Knox, of living with confidence. It's exactly that. You know, it's about, you know, empowering people to try and achieve their dreams and aspirations. You know, it's something that can work in good times and bad times, whether we are in a downturn or an upturn. You know, so it's not just a new motto. We've institutionalized what it truly means in the business processes and how we show up as a business. So it's not just a few new words that sit underneath our logo. You know, it's a promise to every man, every woman, every child on this continent, you know, that we'll do everything in our power to help you to live with the kind of confidence that we believe can make a real difference in your life, and that's financial confidence. Now, to put that and actually as boldly as an assertive, in a way as we've done, means that we are starting to see a shift from businesses becoming more purposeful, rather than just focusing on profit. Because your question is around, what does it mean for big businesses, where they find themselves during these times? It's another substantive silver lining.
Yeah.
That brands are increasingly prioritizing purpose over profit. We've come from a period of deep collective introspection. Now more and more businesses are rethinking their relationships with profit, with society, with the planet, and what does it mean for us to be, to cohabitate with the people who actually have built these businesses in a way that builds goodwill and reputation for us, yet at the same time is value accretive, through the products and services that we give them.
Thank you so much, Sydney. I'm gonna start asking for those questions. Can I just see by a show of hands the questions that are in the room, and by under my cell phone, the questions that are from social media, before I go to Thandeka. I love how you highlighting, it feels like, but it is indeed, it's always been a personal growth strategy to discover your purpose and live your purpose every day. And more and more, and we used to say this a lot in marketing, brands are like people, brands have personality, brands have values, but we never used to mention purpose, then when we're looking at the brand DNA and how you build your brand and the attributes around your brand. Now, it has been almost a couple of years and proven statistically that brands that are purposeful and companies that are purpose-led, they thrive, they flourish, they bloom far better. In fact, 65% ahead of those that are not purpose-led. It doesn't only question or challenge the business, it questions the leadership. And how do we also empower those around us to be purposeful, to find purpose in what they do, to find spaces to activate their purpose in what we do as an organization. I mean, to have a financial services like Sanlam, as Sydney's saying, owning, activating, and making sure everything that Sanlam does is about enabling each one of us to live confidently. Yes, financially. And it challenges all of us again to say, are we taking advantage of where this business is at when it comes to our financial legacies? And later on, I will be probably tapping into Sydney about some of the things we can adopt as women. I know they've got it's a book, when you talk about affirmations, like daily affirmations, they've got like rule 1 to, 100 of how to live life with confidence around your finances. And I look forward to hear some of the top ones, at least from you, Sydney, later. Thandeka, your lessons, and I know that you went in and you spoke about, mostly people, because you have a huge number of people that you're managing. Lessons for you, life lessons, business lessons that we can adopt. And I'm reflecting so that in the room and online, we don't just live at, or we don't just look at what is being discussed here as it's business related. We can take the same input, the same insights, and apply them in our lives, because you are me.com, me Inc., me Pty Ltd. What are the strategies that are taking you forward in your life as a business, as a personal individual business? So taking these insights and layer them on your life, and say, am I evolving? Am I reviewing my life strategies? Do I even have a life strategy? Does my life have purpose? Can I articulate my life purpose? And am I showing up on purpose every day? And that's what epitomizes the Power Woman Awards that we have this afternoon. It's women we are recognizing that have discovered their purpose, but didn't just know it themselves. but they show up every day to activate it. They walk their purpose. And by doing that, you're saying, I don't want to just live a footprint. She always speaks on, I was here, but it must be a legacy, purposeful footprint, one that changes the space, as Wendy would say from East London Ambassador, one that influences the room, influences the industry you're playing within, influences young people within that industry or your community or your family. So today is about charging us to be purpose-led, to be purposeful in everything that we do. Thandeka, I want to glean off you some of the nuggets that you have, insights, lessons, business-wise, personal-wise. There's one thing I love about this boss lady. I just think, when does she work? And she manages 520 people. On social media, she's a new mom as well. So new baby, or just boy. And then she will be at a game reserve, just like Sydney said, we are enjoying the game reserves. We couldn't enjoy it because, hey, they know UK travelers or Chinese travelers coming in. We are going. They must see us everywhere. Nambiti, everywhere. Welgevonden. We were there last weekend. Thanks, Kensani and Nedbank. We are all over South Africa, places where it's 20 grand a night. We're like, we are there. Siyabangen. So this boss lady just balances her life so well. And that's something I've learned from you. And I take lessons. And I know you're going to share the lessons yourself. But from what I observe on social media, and I would go on DM and go, are you working or you are living life? And then she'll respond back to me and say, yes, Knox. People think when I post, it's 1 o'clock at this game reserve. They think we traveled there to see the animals. We're actually there for work. But then we take pictures that just makes, and obviously it's for you balancing work and life. And it's like covered, you can pack your work with you and take it wherever you are and enjoy life, fullness of life. And you do that so well, Thandeka. And that's one thing I'm learning to do, to say, don't penalize yourself and say, oh, I've got to work. Oh, payday. Because you're not trusting your team. Go and work from wherever they are and connect with them right here. So I want to learn from you that balance I see every day, mommyhood, wifeyhood, business life, and let's hear from you.
Wow. Thank you for that, Knox. I think for me, being authentic to self is important, and knowing exactly what your purpose is as a person and also in business, and separating the two, because both are two people that, or entities, or, pillars that need to be fed in different ways. So if you feed self, you're able to pour into the business. And also if you feed business, you're able to pour into that. So taking time is super important. Take time to be in a comfortable environment so that, you are able to fill your own cup, because as a leader, it's like being a mother. You cannot be a grumpy mother. You have to take time away, go to a spa on your own, re-strategize with yourself. And, it's something that I'm doing now, to re-strategize with myself, to say, what does my 2021 look like as a person, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, as a daughter? And then obviously there should be another strategy to business, because the minute I mix both, one is about to fall away. Yeah. So my main thing is being authentic. And also, keeping it simple. And I think what COVID has taught us, as much as there's a shift and change, I find that, because I advise a lot of business people, I find that people are almost forgetting what their business is about because of fear and anxiety and the rush and the loss and, the everything that's happening around the world. So I've said to everyone, keep it simple. What do you actually offer? How do you then innovate that to speak to where we are right now? Are you able to change your services to be on a technology platform? Are you able to change, your e-commerce? I mean, your selling to e-commerce. What can you do to keep it simple? Because I've seen that, with social media and everything, people are fearful. People are starting new things every day, and it's just becoming chaos to not actually understand what does Knox's business model or vision is. What is it? I know my business vision is to provide solutions to my clients through property management and facilities management. And how do I grow that as a person? Again, one thing that we've learned, business women that are, much older than us, or that come before us, have taught us to be very serious in approaching business. Yeah. So we've become very unapologetic about us pouring into the family and into the self, which shouldn't be, because the minute you don't love what you do, there's a problem there. So technology has been key for me in the business. I've tried as much as I've had to diversify to keep it simple. So if anyone asks me, what do you do? I'm able to answer that quickly, because no one has time on Teams or on Zoom to listen to long company profiles or long bios, or we all in a rush. If you send me an annual report of 60 pages, I'm not going to read it because I have another meeting over another meeting. So keeping it simple, having a 1-page profile versus a 6-page profile helps me understand better who you are and what you stand for. So that has been my strategy, to say, I want to diversify, but I want to keep things simple as possible. Thank you.
Clarity, because you cannot keep things simple if there's fog and confusion and you are all over the show. And for me, that speaks to clarity. And you can't arrive at that without doing exactly what Sydney said, self-awareness, sit with yourself. Absolutely. Like, when you say have an individual strategic session, time alone, how much time alone do we spend, so that we can map out, how do I want my year to look like? How do I want my life to look like? So that you can arrive at that one-liner that says, live with confidence, or this is what I stand for, that is really powerful. Thank you so much, Tandeng. I've got some questions in the room before I read the ones that came from online. Show of hands. Tops has got a question. Do we have a mic for Tops? So I will start with this one that I have from online while the mic makes its way to Tops. Whew. To Sydney. So I have a question from, first, I've got a question for Pam, and maybe when we have finished, and if Pam is still in the room, she could probably respond on the chat or come on board, come on and join us here in this panel. From Moshala Motiba, says, to Netstar, do you have programs and projects where you offer support to small women-owned businesses? How do we access them if we have any, or small businesses that we have? So that's for Pam, and I'll bank it until maybe she shows up on screen. If she's here, please promote her back to panelist. And then to Sydney, with the current unemployment crisis in South Africa, and more specifically among young South Africans, how can one set themselves up in such a way that makes them most attractive to a potential employer like Sanlam or any companies that you have worked for? I will go straight to Sydney from here. And this comes from the student in the room.
Yeah, that's it's a very difficult question. And I think it's difficult because, we live in an ever-evolving environment. Yeah. And the skills that we wanted, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, have changed to today. And I think what it calls for is for us to be very circumspect when we are trying to set ourselves up for our careers in terms of where the world is going. I'm a marketing leader in a big organization, and my responsibility spans over close to 45 countries. And when I grew up marketing, this thing called digital marketing did not exist. Yet I'm now, in the throes of providing quite directive leadership, and not just to my team, but to the group expert board of Sanlam, to say, here's where we should be going as a business. Here's how we should be doing it. And what it means is that I've had to evolve myself. I've had to get myself acquainted with the discipline that is coming at the back of the accelerated pace of change driven by digital technology. And I'm using myself as an example that for me to be able to continue to justify my reason for it, even in my job, I've had to evolve significantly. I've learned new skills, I've learned a new way of engaging with people. And likewise, I guess if you're trying to find employment, I mean, I think it's important, firstly, to be very clear about, what is it that drives you and where the journey is going, where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
And you need to ensure that you proactively, go and get the skills and the experience that you need. And in today's world, by the way, it's not just the skills. It's also, the archetype that we look for. There's certain things I can't train. I can't train your attitude. I can't train your, but I can certainly upskill you, on things that, that I believe are important for the business if you've got the aptitude to be able to, get there and get there quickly. So keeping that balance is quite important, understanding what it takes on the soft skills and be able to articulate that, in interviews and other ways. That will be important, but also understanding what are the skills of the future. Where is the world going? I mean, I'm now sitting, and I'm going to use again an anecdote of an individual who's in my team. I will keep the confidentiality of the persona, who sort of reached a ceiling. And I was having a conversation with them about what does it mean for them to grow, in a construct of an organization that is quite static in a sense, right? That when you've reached a ceiling in your role and you want to grow, how do you do that and do that effectively? And I was advising this individual that when I was in one of the organizations, I approached my leadership. I approached the CEO and my boss at the time, and I crafted my own new role based on where I thought, a demand for new skills was emanating that was going to help us as a business. Of course, it always has to be linked with a business strategy. It can't be something that is parallel or not connected to what you're trying to do as a business. It was important for me to consider my own career alongside where the organization is going. And I said, if I actually want to grow in this organization, I think here's where the skills deficit. And you know what? I think this is where I could make myself vulnerable and, and play a meaningful role that is value accretive to the organization. So I crafted my own journey in an environment that did not exist, and I was given that opportunity. Likewise, if you're looking for jobs, understand where you want to be, where the world is going, understand the trends, upskill yourselves in the right place, and get to understand what it takes to work effectively in teams that define today's working environment. When he was talking about, this agile working environment, but it's more than just actually just showing up. It's actually playing a role of being meaningful, as part of the team. That's useful, but that's how I would frame trying to get yourself to of opportunities that may come your way.
Awesome. Thanks, Sydney. I hope the student in the room was listening and she gathered as much from that. And it's all about evolving. It's all about also, position yourself, know what role you and what value you can bring into the organization. Get in touch with your own personal gifts, personal, aptitude, abilities that you can lend in a space where you can then marry that objective or that vision together with the business. I'd like to go straight to Tops before I come back and wrap up the group coaching. If you can, please just point at where Tops is sitting. She's got a question for our panel. Thank you, team. Please point, look that way. There you go.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to ask two very pertinent questions in terms of, you touch on authenticity, the power of staying true to yourself, but still being able to be agile. How do you make sure that in staying true to yourself and constantly changing these various strategies and being agile, you are true to who you are? That's the first question. And the second question is in terms of, you know, the people that surround you, your team, your tribe. When you are finding that you have the wrong person or the wrong team, how do you deal with that and let them go and bring in the right team? Thank you.
That's powerful. Yeah, it's very difficult to let go of people. And yesterday, when we were talking about the whole IAB connected women, those are one of the questions that came up was exactly that. And I remember that my dear friend Kenzie in the board of Nedbank, she actually said she has learned because she held on to an employee, a team member for 2 years, and almost like ignoring or not regarding and not dealing with it head on. She learned, because then she went to suffer greatly from that. And now she's able to show up and be a human being and just sit down with the person and say, this is what's happening. It's not working for 1, 2, 3 reasons. And she's even willing to pay for it. She said, I'll pay for you to exit the business. That's how much she's learned from that page. I think she is in our Zoom call. I took that I will never forget. I mean, she's like, you know, the remuneration department is always on her case because she pays a lot for her people, but she also will just, you know, be empathetic and just sit down with the person and say, this is where it's at, and this is why it's not working. But if it really gets to that point where we pay for the exit, we have to. So I'll start with you, Bonnie, on those questions. Yeah.
Okay, let me try the one about how do you keep the team that believes in your vision and where you intend going as a business. I think it's very important. So the point Knox made about having to let someone go, it's a hard thing to do, as you can imagine. In South Africa, we are governed by the Labor Relations Act.
Yeah.
So you need to be mindful that whatever you are doing, it's correctly done. However, and I think maybe from, I guess, all leaders, but maybe more so women, that, you know, you try and nurture someone and hoping that they will turn and probably be in the right seat within the bus. But there are instances where it doesn't happen. For me, so one thing that you need to do is to talk about it, frankly. Like if someone is not playing the ball, instead of leaving it and hoping it's going to disappear, guess what? It doesn't disappear. It may just go for a month, and it's like, it's okay for a month or two, and then it comes back, it resurfaces. So I think what's important is to address it head on, talk about it respectfully, but frankly so, like call it what it is. If a person, like, come with examples. When you do this, this is what happens. When you do this, you find a typical example. For me, I remember, especially if you get promoted within the business, you know, you find that you were colleagues with other people, all of a sudden, now you've been elevated. Sometimes that is such a hard adjustment to do. And you find that people just can't get over the fact that you were a colleague and now you can command orders. What I've done in situations like that is you call a person, respectfully so, in the office, and have examples. This is what you have done, and when you do this, this is what happens. In 2 instances where I've had to deal with a situation like that twice, one was able to change in terms of attitude and really playing their ball, and the other one wasn't. And we had to do what I'm not going to call Kenzie's name here. You know, when you have to let someone go. So it's a choice that a person has to do. It's either you play the ball or you let them go, because honestly, you can't work with someone who just doesn't want to work with you, who will always, like the point I was making earlier, who find faults in everything that you do. So you talk about it openly and you let them away. And sometimes you may, I don't think it's real, but sometimes they say, oh, I wasn't away, but make them away and quote typical example, like of when you did this, when you did this. And then a person will either get it and shift, or will not get it and just get worse. And then you do the right thing. you know, because Labor Relations Act also protects employers as well as much as they protect employees, provided you must just do it correctly. And then with regards to authenticity, I think like for me, like the typical, one of the oldest brands we know globally is Coke. I just love the brand because I think it's over 170 years old. Think about it. If you're 170 years old, you should not even look like a Coco. You should look like, I don't know what. But Coke has been able to refresh and be innovative. And Coke appeals to a 15-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 70-year-old, and because they've kept up with times. So that's what we need to do as people. I mean, in your, like Knox talks about your personal brand, like as a person, like, you know, sometimes I'm sure we know this, all of us, where you meet someone that you went to school with, maybe first year, second year, and you can't even see the person, but the person sees you because the person has just looks 10 years, 20 years older than yourself. And because that person, for me, has failed really to adapt and re-innovate themselves and refresh themselves and make sure that they stay current. So you need to do that. But also authenticity for me is about staying true to the cause, like who I am, my identity, my purpose, my understanding of where I come from, where I am now, and where I'm headed. For me, those things are very important because then you don't want to be a schizophrenic person. You know, when you meet me here, I look like this or I act this way. When you meet me here, another way and another way. So it's very important that it has a golden thread that identifies who I am as a person. So understanding where you come from, where you are now, and where you are headed is very important in keeping with authenticity.
Love it. Tandega, Sid, do you have something there for us? In fact, I'll go to Tandega because Sydney attended to the youth in the house. Tandega, anything to that? To those questions?
Yes, thanks, Tops, for the question. I'll start with the employee retention and you know, the hiring and the firing of business. I've been burnt. As much as I came from a corporate environment, and I have corporate experience and you know, professional background. Starting a business for me, I think when we start a business, we think, okay, small time, you know, we're going to start and work it out. And as we grow, we're going to develop new things. So where I paid school fees mostly started with a team of 3 people. You didn't put proper policies and procedures. And as the business grows, it's hard to actually implement new things with people that have been in the business for a long time. So as the business grew, I had to make sure that I hire the right people to be able to fire those people. Because I'm a very compassionate and nurturing person, and it's difficult for me to make such, you know, difficult decisions because I take it personal. I think, oh, these are my sisters and brothers that I started the business with. We're all family. And then it just becomes a bit tricky because they then also take advantage of the fact that they know me personally or we've grown together. So hiring the right people to do the work, the hard work for you is important. If you cannot, what I always say is when you start with one team member or even with just you on your own, try and get the right advice from, you know, there's free advice everywhere about what policies do I have to have in my business that are going to be a workbook and a manual for your business as it grows from 1 person to 500 people or 300 people. There it's easy because when someone gets inducted and recruited in a company, they are going to follow that. So it makes your job easier where you don't, you know, I had to get burnt for me to be able to implement all those things. And therefore, it's important that you have policies and procedures in place to make sure that your business actually thrives and you don't have to spend much time doing HR and, you know, disciplinary issues. So that's the one. Being authentic, again, I mean, both Sydney and Bonnie has alluded to this, that you have to know at your very core what grounds you. Where do you go when it is that you are feeling overwhelmed or there's just too much? You find a corner. And what practices do you do as a person? You know, you do wake up. How does your morning work? You know, Brené Brown once said, when you wake up and then you wake up again. So when you wake up in the morning, yes, when is the moment for you to wake up again? My moment is usually in the shower, where it is, okay, I'm me right now. I'm going, how do I present myself to the world? Yeah. And that's quite important, because then we are able to show up as ourselves, because the world is very noisy and it can actually consume us. And what is also important in this day and age of social media, we need to be very critical about what we consume, because we can get very confused into going back to our core. Because I mean, I'm a wife, but I have my own principles. What Nozip believes in doesn't necessarily, is my principles as a person. So you need to be authentic to yourself first before you can actually go out to the world to show up to other people, because people will take who you are at that point. And if you're not, clear, rather maybe be at home in your own space, in your own corner, do your meditations, do your gospel music, do your own thing. And Knox usually says that she knows that every morning I'm listening to an empowering song, or I'm doing a meditation, because I need to show up to people and I need to make sure that people receive me at my best. So being authentic. And also, I think your question alluded to, how do we then become authentic when it is that we need to constantly change? And again, as I said, make your life simple. Don't grasp everything. You can't be able to grasp anything at the same point, because you will be very confused. Yeah. So stay the course, know who you are, be simple about your intentions and how it is that you impact the rest of the people that you need to pour out to. Thank you. I hope I've answered your question.
Kandaga, you keep going to this word simplicity. As today I'm taking it. Usually it's like intentionality, clarity. Today I'm like, keep it simple, silly. Like, don't complicate life. Like, we just take on so much, take people's problems, and just maybe we close the doors because the rain is like, wow, coming down right here, right now. I want to wrap up, but I would have done us injustice if I wrap up without touching some of those living life with confidence with Sydney from a financial services perspective. We have our second sponsor also just on the edge. So I'm going to delay our comfort break and music for, say, 10 minutes to give Nomi an opportunity to connect with us from Alan Gray. But before I do that, Sydney, in parting, won't you leave us with some of those 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many you remember, but I remember seeing them flashing on socials. Some of those key live with confidence takeaways for everyday practice.
Thank you, Knox. Thank you, Knox. I think it's important to understand that this idea of where this idea of financial confidence comes from. Our organizational purpose is to empower generations to be financially confident, to be secured and prosperous. And really, what we seek to do is deal with two fundamental, universal needs that we see across the length and breadth of the clients we serve, along the length and breadth of the continent. On the one side is this idea of financial security. Now, how do we get more people to play a meaningful role in the mainstream of society, in the economic mainstream of society, and really uplift them from poverty and from inability to really secure for their future? And then on the other hand is this notion of financial security, that those who have some little wealth or some little, in terms of possessions, how do we help them to, protect them into the long term? And the thought is that, by giving people this notion of financial confidence, that people are prepared for challenges that life may bring. I mean, you will know it yourself when you've had the confidence and you're going into an interview, what you feel like, or the day you were riding the bike for the first time, what it felt like when you really had confidence. So it's really a feeling of reassurance. That's what is important to you, is protected. And it's knowing you can look after your family, you can work towards your goals and a better future. And it's the kind of confidence that opens doors to new possibilities and unlocks dreams, you know, and that's why it's promise. You know, it's a promise that we will never take lightly because it's just so deep and meaningful. And what we did is to make it a bit more tangible, you know, because often as brands, we can come with these beautiful lines, live with confidence, or any other line, you know, and not fulfill it in terms of getting people to experience it. So amongst the many things that we did was to construct kind of a guide and a tool to help people, you know, kind of we want to hold their hands so that they can, you know, on their own be able to, you know, to teach themselves to live with confidence. And we devised these confidence rules. There's lots of them, they're close to 100, and they are in different categories, whether, you know, you want to craft a plan, whether you want to start saving, whether you want to invest in your future, whether it's about, you know, protecting what matters in your life, you know, and I talked about it briefly earlier, or whether you want to retire with confidence. You know, all of these rules sit on these buckets, and we've got about sort of 8 or 10 buckets. And maybe I'm just going to highlight 1 or 2, you know, of each of those rules. You know, so for example, in the space of kind of starting out, having a plan, you know, a very simple analogy, you know, is that without a clear goal, you'll miss every time. You know, getting ahead starts with getting started. I mean, those 2 rules are really very simple rules. And, you know, these are disseminated in the digital platforms. So you can be able to search for these, you know, confidence rule book, Sanlam confidence rule book. And for each and every one of these rules, you are able to see how Sanlam can help you, you know, within each of those aspects, whether it's about saving, whether it's about retirement, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe let me give you another example of a rule. Every day is a new chance to be better than yesterday. I mean, that seems like a very simple thing, but actually so fundamental, so profound for people who don't really provide for their lives, for their families, you know. And maybe let me just give you the last one. The best way to succeed is to try one more time, because we know that, you know, life is about false starts. Life is about really trying, falling, and getting yourself up to really reframe your world, your future, and employing new tactics to try and, you know, build, you know, yourself into whatever are your dreams and aspirations. So do go out into the digital platforms, search Sanlam Confidence Rulebook. You should be able to find it, and hopefully it helps you to be able to fortify yourself, you know, and your family, you know, to provide a financially secured future.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mbele. Guys, you heard, look for Sanlam rule books or rule guide, toolbook. It's about living life confidently, and it's available online on social media, on their website. Some of the top 3 that he shared here was just incredible. That to succeed, you gotta try again, you know, and every day presents you an opportunity to be better than yesterday. And if you don't start, it's never going to happen. And so the importance of starting, whether it's a financial plan, whether it's a savings plan, investment plan, and we're about to talk to Nomi about such things and how it's looking like in the different strategic markets in terms of investments. I want to thank you, Bonnie, right here next to me. I've held on to her. She's like my co-host, and for the longest of time. Thank you for this. I know we've tried for 3 years in a row to have you in our panel, and when you said yes, it's Saturday, I'm there. I'm like, yes. So Thandeka, thank you so much, all the way from Joburg. Now I'm going to release you and let you go. It's back to the Baba. It's been wonderful to learn from you, and I think there's so much more that we can learn from you. I think in one of the upcoming master classes, having you there, just continue to learn as small business owners from you know, someone who is from our own space, and how she continues to navigate facilities management space and be a top businesswoman even during pandemic. Sydney, I can't thank you enough, my friend. Really appreciate having you here as a he for she representative. I had a question for you when it comes to the organization that you run for young boys becoming, you know, men of great stature. And if you obviously do have time and you're still around, we can obviously delve into that after the break, but I'd love to give Nomi an opportunity to join us as well, because she has an engagement and she traveled from Cape Town to Durban for that. And she's a little bit under pressure with time. Welcome to the new ladies that just walked in. Wapumelele, we see you. Hello, she's shy, she's covering her face. Thank you so much. Nomi is here. Please, can you put Nomi on screen for us to engage with her? So, Nomi is not new in the Bloom Inside Out Women Entrepreneurship Day organization celebration. As I indicated in the beginning, this is the second, if not third year that she has partnered with us as Allen Gray. She is the head in Allen Gray of strategic markets. She started working at Allen Gray in 2015, and she occupied many other roles in retail and client services. She holds an engineering degree from the University of Cape Town and a master's of philosophy in engineering for sustainable development from Cambridge University. In the room, you have your high school colleague, Tops Mukwanazi, who on social media was like, I'm going to the same event, she's speaking, I'm a nominee, and I think you come from the same high school. So welcome, Nomi, and thank you for your patience. I know that you are now pressed for time. I'm gonna allow my friend to be free, enjoy a coffee break over there.